Hey man, this is Chris the Phone Cats, and here is a ranty what I'm playing with, what I'm not playing with deck list for Chandra, Born Aflame. Little precursor intro. I like this deck. I like Burn, and after playing Goblins like a crackhead just over and over and over, I wanted to play the one deck that I feared the most, and that was this one. So I got a really good feel for it. It's just nice to have so many answers to swarms of creatures on your opponent's side. I like it. I mean, I feel like Chandra is strong versus just about every deck. You can gear it a couple different ways, and yeah, let's get into it. I'm playing Earthquake. Wipe out your opponent's side of the board. It is an X spell, so let's say if you have some creatures on your side, you can cast a tiny Earthquake and take out all their goblins that have like 1 toughness and leave some of your creatures into play. Or if your opponent is low on life, you can use it like an X spell because it deals damage to both players too. Since it deals damage to players, it can pull your Chandra's Phoenix back from the graveyard. And yeah, it's just a sweet card. I'll try to keep my eyes peeled and see what creatures it would actually kill. I bet I took him out for the most part. Lightning Bolt. Why would you not play with Lightning Bolt? It's so sweet. I think I have a Lightning Bolt around here somewhere. No, I don't. Oh, I got a Searing Blaze, son. You know I play Magic in real life. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Yeah, Lightning Bolt, 3 damage to target creature player. It's the staple of the deck. I'm so glad they put in 1 just as like a nostalgia factor. Rain of Embers is an Earthquake. It deals 1 damage to each creature and player, but it deals damage to creatures with flying too. So in that rare situation that they have like a Flicker Wisp or some of the new decks, the new white-blue deck has a couple of creatures that I think that are 3/1 flyers. Or if they made the mistake of turning all their creatures into 3/1 flyers with the 3/1 flyer, you can play Rain of Embers pretty quick and light them up. It does deal damage to your opponent for 1, so it'll bounce back your Phoenix, and yeah, it's all about card advantage with this deck. Searing Blaze! I will get to in a second. I'm not playing with the Blaze. I just got sick of drawing so many X spells in my starting hand. You light up target creature or player for X damage, so the longer the game goes on, the more it's in your favor, but nothing. I mean, it's a good card. Searing Blaze. Please don't play this. I hate having to play this card when I don't play a land. You definitely want to play it on your turn, because if you have played a land this turn, it deals 3 damage. And it deals 3 damage to target creature, and then 3 damage to the creature's controller. So let's say your opponent went first, which happens about half the time, and they played their nice 2/2, or yeah, probably turn 2, 2/2 creature. You play a land, you kill their creature, you bop them for 3. It's just so nice to have board control and start chipping away at your opponent's life total. I love it. I love it. Not playing with Flame Slash. It's 1 mana, deals 4 damage to target creature. I'm more keeping my eye. I don't even know what they're flame slashing. Is that like a... It almost looks like a Vengevine. Anyways, I'm more concerned about dealing damage to my opponent, and I feel like I have enough creature control. Sometimes, if you're playing with this, you will play against a deck that plays like that Angel or that Green Fatty that needs to be dealt with, and this is just a great, effective tool to use, but yeah, not in my deck. I was already bitching about that Blaze. I don't know why. Are there any reasons you would want to play with the Blaze over Red Sun Zenith? Let's see. They're both X's, they're both sorceries, X damage to target creature or player. And if a creature dealt damage this way would die, exile it instead. And then you put this card back into your library. So yeah, I can't see any reason why you would want to play with a Blaze besides nostalgia over Red Sun Zenith. I mean, it seems like a decent card. There's so many decks now that have effects to where when the creature goes into the graveyard. So exiling it is kind of nice, but yeah, I'm not feeling the X spells. Searing Blaze, another staple. 2 mana, it's just like an Incinerate from the days of yore. 2 mana, 3 damage to target creature or player. You know I'm playing with all 4 of those, they're so sweet. I'm playing with all the Phoenixes, and I don't see why you wouldn't. This is just such a great card. Turn 3, Phoenix, attack, has haste. And whenever your opponent is dealt damage from a red instant or sorcery you control, or by a red planeswalker you control, which doesn't mean much to me. Can't wrap my head around that. You return it from your graveyard to your hand. So it can become this infinite chump block. And I always thought it was a lady, but now you can't really tell. I've never actually looked at the art with thought. But yeah, great card. Great card advantage. I'm not playing with the Dragon Hatchlings, but I can see the appeal. If your opponent doesn't have something with flying, it's pretty much casting like a burn spell, like a Blaze or Red Sun Zenith, like at him every turn. 2 mana, 0/1, that's kind of a turn off. Flying, and it has fire breathing, so you can pay 1, and Dragon Hatchling gets +1/+0 until end of turn. I've definitely played against decks that seem to go with like the fire breathing build, to where every one of their creatures has fire breathing. I'm doing like the opposite. I'm playing with nothing that has fire breathing. But when you are playing that crazy fire breathing deck, including the Pyro Chargers, I mean, every turn, you're just such a threat without even playing cards from your hand. That's what's nice about it. As I talk up the deck that I'm not even playing. Pyro Charger's pretty hot. 2 mana for a 1/1 with haste. So, turn 2, at least you pop them for 1. And then when you top deck in late game, if you're drawing dead, no cards in your hand, and let's say you got 7 mana out and you top deck a Pyro Charger, bam, pop you for 6 with haste. It's nice. I'm not playing with the medallions, and that was something I really tossed and turned over. But if you check out my mana curve, it really works out. I mean, I have 8 2 casting cost spells. All those burns. All those burns. And then when it comes to 3, I have 11. So, and then 4, I think, no, yeah, I'm still playing with both Obsidian Firehearts, Furnace of Wrath, and Chain Reaction. But yeah, it's not my thing. It does, the medallions do pair with your X spells. You just have to keep hitting the plus sign, and it'll go up over that amount. And then you can bring it back down too, and it still includes the medallion. Let me explain that. So if you are casting a Blaze on turn 3, because you're a dummy, you play the turn 2 medallion, turn 3 Blaze, you can keep hitting the plus to deal 1 more damage on the Blaze, and then bring it back down, and it'll take away the lands that you cast, the lands that you tapped, and that you're going to tap. I don't know why I'm ranting about how to do that. What the fuck? Swiftfoot Boots! 2 mana, and equipped creature gains hexproof and haste. Kinda nice. It's 1 to equip, so once you get him out, you can just pop him back and forth and all around. The hexproof is appealing because you don't have very many creatures, and it definitely will piss off certain decks. A little micro tactic. If your opponent has like a terror or just any of the black cards that will kill it, or anything that's gonna get rid of your creature, they're gonna do it in response to you doing this. So when you equip it and pay the 1 and that little timer starts to circle, that's when they're gonna try to do pause, and then in response to that, kill your creature or return your creature to your hand. If you play this mind game with them and don't do this immediately, then when they do their card, whatever they're going to do to deal with your creature, you pause it and then add this equip. Oh, can you do that? Can you equip in response, or is equipped played as a sorcery? They might be played as a sorcery, so I'm just ranting about nothing. But you know, live and learn. You gotta be thinking, this is magic. I almost said, whoa, 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 it's magic, like in the song voice, but I'm not going to. Alright, Chandras Spitfire. This card's pretty sick. It really reminds me of the red-blue deck's little thing. Kind of. The red-blue one is whenever, with the Wee Dragonauts, and that whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it gets +2/+0. And, I don't know, it's kind of akin to the Spitfire. 3 mana for a 1/3, flying. And then whenever opponent is dealt non-combat damage, Spitfire gets +3/+0. So this goes for all kinds of stuff. I mean, if you're playing Instants, sorceries, anything that's not a creature attacking. If you have that artifact that deals or the enchantment that deals damage to each opponent during their upkeep, that will pop this up too, I'm pretty sure. But let's keep moving. Some of you control freaks might be playing with Torch Fiends. I'm not, just because, I don't know, I'm sloppy and I love losing to artifacts. It's 2 mana for a 2/1 Devil. Ah, card's pretty cool. I've never actually... I thought his face was up there, but his face is actually there, and he's looking that way. That's nice. You can pay 1 red, sacrifice it, destroy target artifact. Devils redecorate every room with fire. Cool alt text. Yeah, maybe you got some terrible artifact you got to deal with, so those are nice to play with. Fiery Hellhound. 3 mana for a 2/2 with fire breathing. Seems pretty mediocre. Okay, Flame Break. Great control. It's akin to... It's like Rain of Embers, but more hardcore. It's 3 red, so it doesn't pair with your medallion, so sleep on that. But 3 mana, it deals 3 damage to each creature without flying in each player. And creatures can't be regenerated. That's kind of a big deal in some of these new school decks. Yeah, it's nice that this doesn't target creatures. So if you're playing against the white-blue deck with their hexproof dudes... Invisible Stalkers, it still deals damage. Yeah, works against goblins. It's great against every creature deck. Most people won't dump their whole hand playing all their creatures really fast when they're playing against a red deck, so they'll try to like bait you into using some of your creature removal or like your more extensive board wipes. You can play with 3 Flames of the Bloodhand. I'm playing with 2. It's 3 mana, deals 4 damage to target player. This damage can't be prevented. If that player would gain life this turn, that player gains no life instead. So let's say your opponent's about to do some huge life-gaining spell. This is an instant, so in response to that, pop them for 4, and then they gain no life from their life-gaining effects. Yeah, it works sweet against the life gain deck if they're going to do something crazy. Or, I don't know, there's lots of decks that gain life, and you can just stop them. Corrupt is an example. Flames of the Firebrand. Okay. 3 mana, you deal 3 damage any way that you want. You can deal 3 to a creature, you can deal 3 to them, or you can take out 2 of their creatures and pop them for 1. You can make it pair with the Phoenix by hitting them for 1. You can make it pair with the Spitfire by bopping them for 1. It's nice. I mean, if you're playing goblins, you can take out like a Goblin King and then some other little dinky 1/1. Okay, Prodigal Sorcerer is your standard Tim from... Oops, Prodigal Pyromancer, excuse me, I'm thinking of the blue one. It's 3 mana, 1/1, deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Kinda nice control. Since it's a 1/1, your opponent's probably going to do something to take it out, but it's okay. Instead of playing with that Tim, I'm playing with Sulfuric Vortex. It's 3 mana. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, the Vortex deals 2 damage to that player. If that player would gain life, they gain no life instead. So it's another one of those anti-life gain cards that'll make certain decks just rage. And yeah, I hate playing this when I'm playing goblins or against a deck that's really aggro-y. At Ragdos, if I drew this, I would hate myself. But I like it. It just puts the game on such a quick clock. And let's say your opponent got like the God draw with Panoptic Mirror and a Time Warp, and they're just trying to wait it out until turn 5. You play this, and then every time that they Time Warp, they're going to take 2 damage. So it's pretty much a game ender in that aspect. They might do the mirror combo anyways and just start taking damage, rooting for a Disperse, because I think that can return any permanent. And they'll probably get it, because that deck just roots through the deck. Chain Reaction is another board wipe. It's pretty solid. 4 mana, X damage to each creature, where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. So goblins, 5 goblins out, deals 5 damage to each goblin. It also applies for your creatures too, so you'll lose your Phoenix and then have to bring it back from the grave. Furnace of Wrath. God, I used to play with a Furnace of Wrath deck with just 4 Fire Blast, like 3 Furnaces, and just Lightning Bolts, Incinerates, Mog Fanatics, all the cheapest cards. So I'm definitely playing with it in this deck. It's so sweet. If a source would deal damage to a creature or player, it deals double that damage. So, yeah. Let's say turn 4 Furnace, attack with something, and Fire Blast. It's so ridiculous. You can get bit in the ass with this card if they corrupt you, or pretty much if they do anything. If they do anything that deals damage to you, you're in trouble. But I just like how fast it makes games. And it only takes a couple of those crazy wins to justify the fun of it. Like, this deck is fun. As I get to some of these cards later in the game, you just have some epic late games of insane amounts of damage. I might be able to have like a better deck that wins more, but the late game is so insane. I'm not playing with Chandras Outrage. It's 4 mana, deals 4 damage to target creature, and hits that creature's controller for 2. Not that cool in my opinion. I mean, 4 damage to a creature is okay. If you're playing with these, I wonder if you're playing with the Flame Seer, Flame Slash. So you pay 3 extra mana to deal 2 damage to your opponent. And it's an instant. So kind of cool, but I don't know. I took those out pretty quick. If you're playing some epically late game geared deck, you can play with these Firewing Phoenixes. 4 mana for a 4/2 flyer. They bumped it up from a 4/1 finally. I guess that came with the expansion. And yeah, you can pay 4, return it from your graveyard to your hand. It's kind of nice. You can use it just to make your opponent have to remove it every turn to deal with it. You can chump block it and then return it to your hand if you're already at 8 mana. But yeah, it's a great return. Like, it's going to cost your opponent cards. I feel like this deck has a lot of card advantage. Another fire-breathing flyer, Furnace Whelp, is 4 mana for a 2/2 with flying, and then it has fire-breathing. It's nice. It's a threat. And I don't know, some of the fire-breathing stuff is nice is because every card is such a threat and it doesn't cost cards in your hand. So when you attack with this on turn 5, I mean, it has the potential to deal 7 damage to your opponent. And that's what they're going to be taking into account when they decide to chump block or use removal on it. And yeah, you can play this Mind Limbo to where if your opponent's going to kill it, sometimes they'll wait until you pump them up all the way. So if you want to be a real D-bag, or if it's definitely like last turn scenario, you can slowly pump them up for 1 at a time. But that's so douchey to do. I think the computer does that. But yeah, reason being is you wouldn't want them to... You would want to make them decide if they're going to terror it, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. But yeah, I'm not playing with it. Okay, Obsidian Fireheart. I am playing with these, both of them. It's 4 mana for a 4/4. Decent, kind of slows the momentum. You can block with it and take out some weenies. And then, here's the cool part. 3 mana, put a Blaze counter on target land, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, put a Blaze counter on target land, and then during that land controller's upkeep, this land deals 1 damage to that player. It reads it in a weird way, or it says in a weird way, but that's what it does. I mean, I've read and argued against this card. So 4 mana for a 4/4, and then on your 5th turn, you're going to pay 3 to not even deal 1 damage to them then, to deal 1 damage to them next turn. Kind of weird. But then another way to look at it is 4 mana for a 4/4, which is fine. And then pay 3. You're pretty much casting that black spell in Liliana's deck to where every time they draw a card, they take 1 damage. To an extent. Because, you know, like every upkeep they draw a card. But you can cast that infinitely. So if you top deck one of these late game, let's say it's like turn 8 and you cast this, turn 9 you can pop them for 3 and then it's damage every upkeep. So if they go infinite, or I don't know, I'm just playing with it. That's how I convince myself. Beacon of Destruction, not too shabby. 5 mana, deals 5 damage to target creature or player, and then you toss it back in your library. There's really not much to it besides that. I mean, it's an instant, so you can play it at a clutch time. Like, at the end of your opponent's turn, or if you get a Furnace out, it pops them for 10, which is pretty serious. Okay, let's keep moving. Chandras Fury. 5 mana, deals 4 damage to target player and 1 damage to each creature that player controls. So if you're playing some weenie elf deck, an exalted deck that has a whole bunch of creatures with 1 toughness, or a goblin deck before they hit that critical mass of pumping up all their creatures, it's like a mini board wipe. Yeah, it's 5 mana. I think this is not bad. I don't know. It's an instant too, so in response to their overrun or in response to something, you can light up their side of the board. I would probably play with this over a Blaze, just because it has like a little bit of a board wipe aspect in it too. Oh god, my camcorder battery might die. Let's get to the good cards that I'm playing with. I might skip the stuff I'm not. Cone of Flame, deal 1 damage, 2 damage, 3 damage, distributed any way that you want. I've won games killing my opponent, like popping them for 3, hitting me for 1, and hitting one of my creatures for 2. That was really like desperate and lame though, but you can get creative with it. Cool art. Fire Servant. Okay, this is like a one-sided Furnace of Wrath that only goes for instant and sorceries you control. And it's 5 mana for a 4/3, so that's solid on its own right. If you get a Furnace and a Fire Servant out and you Fire Blast them, you're popping them for 16, which is probably GG at that point. Your opponent's going to kill it. I mean, it only has 3 toughness, so they'll do anything that they can to get it off the board. So it's pretty much like guaranteed removal bait. Let's keep going. If you get a Fire Servant out with a Hostility, it's so crazy. Okay. Yeah, I've won with Hostility before. It's so ridiculous. Turn 6, it has haste. If a spell you control would deal damage to an opponent, prevent that damage, and put a 3/1 red elemental into play with haste. So let's say turn 6, Hostility. I'm going to Fire Blast you by sacrificing 2 mountains. I just hit you for 4. Instead of you taking 4 damage, I put 4 3/1 tokens into play. And they have haste, and this thing has haste. So turn 6, you're coming up with a surprise. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 6, that's 18 damage. That's so insane. Let's say you had a Furnace of Wrath out. Or, God, a Furnace of Wrath or your Fire Servant. Don't even get me going if you played a Furnace of Wrath on turn 4, a Fire Servant on turn 5, and a Hostility on turn 6, and then Fire Blasted them. You would Fire Blast them for 16 damage and put 16 3/1 tokens into play. 16 times 3 is 48? Plus the 6 damage? That's the most insane 3-card combo probably in the entire game. That's just disgusting. Alright, let's keep moving. I gotta pee too. Jesus. I'm playing with the Magma Phoenix. 5 mana for a 3/3. When it dies, it deals 3 damage to each creature and each player. And then you can pay 5 and return it back to your hand. So another one of those just card advantage cards. If you make it to that late game where you're actually returning this to your hand, it's just going to be the top deck cure. Oh god, almost done. God, my deck is so weird. I'm playing with Inferno Titans. 4 mana for a 6/6, it has fire breathing, and then when it comes into play or attacks, you deal 3 damage any way that you want. So you can light up their side of the board, you can deal it directly to them, you can take blockers out of the way, and then pump him up. It's OP. I'm playing with 2, and I'm playing with 2 Flame Waves. I don't know why, it's such a high casting cost. 7 mana! God, that's a lot. It deals 4 damage to target player and each creature he or she controls. So sick. So sick. There's some stuff I'm not playing with. I'm about to piss. Phone cats.